The international COVID story, Beijing, as it began mass testing for COVID earlier today, the latest move in its zero COVID strategy. They're doing this testing in the Chaoyang district, which is home to more than 3 million people. People responded to the announcement with panic buying. China with more than 20,000 new cases of community transmission yesterday. Patrick Falk is with us this morning. He has the latest developments on the China story live in Beijing. And Patrick, let's talk about this massive testing underway. What is the latest there?
Well, Heather, I mean, they've all died down now, but for most of today, there have been long lines snaking around streets in different parts of Chaoyang district, where I am right now. And this is the biggest district in Beijing, as you mentioned, with around 3.5 million people. People here have been told that they need to get tested 3 times over the course of the next week. There have been a small number of cases that have cropped up in Beijing over recent weeks, but in particular, there were 11 cases reported within the space of 24 hours in Chaoyang district. And that's really kicked authorities into gear to call for this mass testing. They've been telling people that if they don't get a negative test result, then they won't be able to go back to their offices. And they say the situation is serious because there are multiple transmission chains, and there may be cases that have been undetected circulating within the city for more than a week. So, you know, there has been a bit of disruption to people's work, but it has been by and large fairly orderly and fairly calm. There was also, as you mentioned, a bit of panic buying in supermarkets and other places for people to pick up essentials. Authorities say that they've got ample supply, but with what's happened in Shanghai over the past few weeks, people aren't leaving it down to chance.
Pick up on that idea, if you would, Patrick. Shanghai's been on lockdown for 2 months now. We're hearing about erecting fences to keep the area where COVID is a factor really cordoned off. What is the latest in Shanghai today?
Yeah, well, that's quite an interesting new developments that you mentioned about the fences. But I mean, I think the reality is the situation hasn't really improved. There has been a broad downward trend in the number of daily cases of infection, but not significant enough for authorities to lift lockdowns in any major way. I mean, one of the big concerns is that authorities haven't been able to eliminate new cases within communities. So right now, around 5% of all cases that are being detected are outside quarantine zones, and that's really what's keeping the lockdown in place. Another worrying development also is that on Sunday, authorities reported 51 deaths related to COVID-19. That's a record number for the city, although we've talked before about how some of these numbers with regards to fatalities are being questioned. But, you know, overall, it doesn't look as though the lockdown is going to be lifted anytime soon. And adding to people's frustration in the last couple of days are these fences that are being erected around people's compounds, which have really added to, you know, the frustration and overwhelming anger that there's already been, with some people also questioning whether it's actually safe to fence people into their compounds the way they have. And so people here in Beijing have been watching, of course, what's been happening in Shanghai, and they're very worried that the same might happen here in the coming days.
Patrick, thank you very much. Reporter Patrick Falk is in Beijing.